Thank you, Dr. Levin. It's 1:15 and we're sharp on time. How things are going over there?
For me, things are going great. Thank you. I'm ready to go.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity and the time, Dr. Levin. I know that you've been in so many lectures around the nation and helping us, and we really appreciate dearly from the bottom of our hearts, from our dental society locally. You're being transferred to different universities in the nation, and people, in Mexico, Argentina, Canada are going to be looking after you right now. And I would like to introduce you first. Then I would like to bring just a few words. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Roger Levin, founder and CEO of the Levin Group. He's one of the most highly recognized speakers in practice management and marketing system. He's the most prolific writer and critical subjects in dentistry. Dr. Levin serves as an advisory board of key professional organizations in dental corporate worldwide. Dr. Levin, if you can give me just 1 second, I would like to please be in these moments that are so unprecedented, and we'll try to help each other, and we'll try to be united and help. I would like to just give me 30 seconds, and I would like to say something spiritual from the sacred scriptures that is in Philippians 4 by Paul, and talks about anxiety. And he says, anxious for nothing, and in every situation by prayer and supplication, let your requests be known to God, and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding may guide you. Amen. Amen. Dr. Levin, this is your podium, and thank you. You're going to be talking on recovery plans and your 3 strategies. Here's the podium for you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and nice introduction. And anxiety, I think you're absolutely right. So great to be with everybody. Dr. Cruz has told me about you. You sound like a fantastic group. I'm honored to be with you. Dr. Cruz is a friend of mine. I have the greatest respect for him. And when he asked me to do this, I explained to him, and let me explain to you, everything we're going to talk about today is focused on the COVID-19 recovery. 6 weeks ago, I was not talking like this. It was a different world. I had many different things to say, and I'm going to share with you today some models that we've put together in order to help you and to understand the best way to recover from this crisis when that time comes. So this is really an unprecedented time. We don't know more than we do know. We don't know more than we do know, unfortunately. Over time, we'll learn more. So all the things I'm going to talk about today focus on the recovery, and all the things that I'm going to talk about today are based on what we do know today. We're not in a position yet to start to create consulting planning around new regulations when we don't know what those new regulations are yet. We know things are coming, but we don't know what they are yet. So the way we approach the COVID-19 crisis at Levin Group, the company that I founded, is we want to do everything we possibly can to help the profession. I will be on, believe it or not, 60 webinars by the end of April. I've written 10 articles in the last 3 weeks. A lot of the articles that I had written that were to be published, the editor called me, or I called them and said, okay, those great articles from 6 weeks ago are irrelevant right now. Let me write something about COVID-19 recovery. So many of you right now are focused on getting your loans. I refer to it as the loan crisis. It's been an absolute chaotic disaster mess trying to navigate through the government and the banks. Everybody's trying to help. They're trying to roll things out fast. Unfortunately, when you roll things out fast, you have a lot of bits and pieces you have to clean up. And you should go and get your loans. They're really, really important if the right loans. But my message to you is that the loans will not carry you through the recovery. And that's something you need to understand. So the success of your practice in the future is going to be heavily based on the recovery stages from COVID-19. Okay, so in order to understand this and begin to put some planning around it. You're going to get some very, very practical ideas today. I start by building models. I've got a very business school mentality when it comes to understanding business. And the first thing I recognized is that when you go back into practice, you are going to be in a business turnaround. Now, fortunately, there are scientific methods that you can use to turn around a business, meaning your practice. And if you follow those scientific methods, you're going to be okay. Let me tell everybody, we're going to get through this. I have absolute faith that we will get through this, because when the entire world gets together to work on a problem, we're going to solve it. There's 70 vaccine trials taking place now. One of them is going to be effective. So, we will move through this. It's going to be bumpy for a while. And most practices will bounce back, not all. Again, I don't want to depress you, but I will tell you the truth. We have no data to work with. I love data. One of the great things in my career was having data behind the things I would say. And now everything I'm going to recommend today is based on observation, strategy, and ideas, because it's an absolutely unprecedented time in uncharted waters. So the first thing I did is I sat back and said, all right, this is going to be a business turnaround. And if it's going to be a turnaround, it's not going to be business as usual. That's one of my biggest mantras right now. It will not be business as usual, as you'll see from the recommendations I'm going to make. So the first model I built was to identify 3 stages of the COVID-19 crisis and recovery. The first stage, stage 1, is the COVID-19 crisis. That's what we're in right now. We're in the crisis. We don't know when we're going to get back to work. I will tell you that I have picked an arbitrary hypothetical date, of June 1st for practices to reopen. That's not a prediction. That's not a guess. I have absolutely no idea, but I needed a timeline to work with to help you. So the first stage is the COVID-19 crisis. That's the stage we're in right now. The second stage we call entering recovery. That's when you go back into practice. Let's just say for today it's June 1st. If it's not, we'll modify the timelines I'm going to share with you. And the third stage is recovery itself. Now, every few days I'm able to advance my thinking and evolve my thinking because we get a little more information or more occurs to me. So the next piece is a timeline. And the timeline we have put together at Levin Group, the timeline we're looking at for our clients is the following. Months 1 and 2. So let's say we start June 1st. June and July, you will be extremely busy. You're going to be extremely busy because of pent-up demand. Some of you will be so busy that you're going to think back to this webinar and say, Roger had no idea what he was talking about. He talked about recovery and all these things we need to do, but I'm busier than ever. A couple of you, many of you might have the best month of your entire career. But the danger is it's going to fool you. You're going to see this busyness. And by the way, I'm a dentist as well. I was full-time for 10 years. I'm a 3rd-generation dentist. My father and grandfather were dentists. So I live and breathe dentistry. And probably because of my family history, I am so motivated to help as many people as we can right now. And when you are busy as a dentist, you think everything is fine and you think everything will stay fine. That's a fairly normal human psychology, but it will not stay fine. So months 1 and 2 is the first phase of the recovery. There are 3 phases. The second phase is months 3, 4, and 5. Now, I may be off by a month or 2 here or there. Who knows? But months 3, 4, and 5, and I needed to build these models to work with, are the months where your production is going to start dropping. Your pent-up demand will be done and production will start dropping. Now, just to make this more complicated, and this is the only time I'm going to really talk about this, some regulation will be coming. We don't know what it is. We don't know if it will slow you down. So even pent-up demand may not be as pent up as we think, depending on what regulations are put in place for us to go back into practice. And we just don't know yet. So to me, it's pointless to spend time on what we don't know. I'll modify everything I'm saying as we learn more. Then you get months 6 through 12. That's the recovery. In months 6 through 12, you'll begin to recovery. Now, let me go back. In months 3, 4, and 5, production will drop anywhere from 15 to 50%, 15 to 50. So, Roger, why such a big gap? And the answer is it depends on what you are putting in place now to be ready for recovery. Some of you will do better than others, depending on how well you follow some of the ideas I'm going to share with you. Okay, so months 6 through 12 then is the recovery. If we get back June 1st, our objective for our clients is that they get back to 80% of their average monthly production by the end of the year. It's going to take time to build back. Some will get to 70, some will get to 90. But we are going to help, our mission is to help our clients in the turnaround. Keep in mind, I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but that's what I do. I've always tried to give too much, not too little. And I hope I'm doing a good job, and I hope that I'm laying this out well for you. And months 6 through 12, you're going to be building back, and you're going to be implementing new approaches, all of which I'm going to go back and go over specific things to do. But I wanted to give you the framework that you're going to have to start to think in. Okay, now in stage 1, remember stage 1 is the COVID-19 crisis. We're in it right now. In stage 1, you need to be preparing for stage 2. In stage 2, you need to be preparing for stage 3. So let me give you some specific things you can do in stage 1. And what's interesting to me, and maybe I shouldn't find things interesting in the middle of a crisis, but I do, is I've noticed staying home, and I bet many of you feel the same way. Saturday and Sunday are starting to feel and look just like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So this weekend, on Saturday, I've been doing a lot of really deep work. We're working 12 to 14 hours a day here between education and guidance and direction, and then creating new content for our clients that we'll be rolling out, new content for specialists on referrals that we'll be rolling out. And Saturday, I said to myself, okay, what evidence do we have of what's going to happen? Because up till Saturday, I really thought, you know, we really don't know what's coming. We just have to do the best we can. And I realized that we do have evidence for part of it, not all of it, of the recovery. Because in 2008 and 2009, we had the longest, deepest recession in United States history. And I spent Saturday going back to our data, reviewing what happened after 2008 and 9, and put together a list of 15 lessons we can learn from 2008 and 2009. And I'm not going to list all 15 now, but what I will tell you is 2008 and 9 was an economic recession. Now, COVID-19 is different. We have 2 major blows or factors that are impinging upon us. One is the virus itself. That's created fear. We didn't have fear in 2008 and 9. Nobody was afraid to go out, to go to the dentist, to go to a restaurant, to get on an airplane. We did not have a health scare in 2008 and 9. But we did have a major, major recession. And when we come out of COVID-19, the virus portion, we will have a very deep recession in the United States. We will have high unemployment. By the way, forget the news. They're talking about 30% unemployment. We won't have 30% unemployment. Just like your staff are unemployed at the moment, but they're going to be rehired. So whatever you hear on the news, cut the number in half. If it's 15 or 16%, that's still very unfortunate, but it's not 30. So you have to understand the underlying fundamentals of some of the things we're being told. Most of you will be hiring most of your staff back, which means they're going to come off of unemployment, and those numbers will drop when you reopen. Same for restaurants and retailers. Macy's, the department store, laid off 250,000 people. Now, will they hire them all back? Probably not, but they'll hire a lot of them back, the majority. Okay, so I spent Saturday looking at evidence from 2008 and 9, what happened in that economic recession that could happen again in dentistry. Keep that in mind. I'll come back and reference that at points during the webinar. But the second thing I did on Sunday was I sat down and I created a document for our consultants, 35 things our clients need to know and do for COVID-19 recovery. And I'm going to share some of those with you today. But I'm going to do it within the model. So let's start with stage one, the COVID-19 crisis. That's right now. That's real time. What can you do to begin preparing yourself for the best recovery? And what you do will determine how long and how deep your recovery will be. Number one, stay close to your staff. I don't know if there's staff members on this webinar, certainly fine with me if there are, but you are the leaders. The doctors are the leaders. And the key word in leadership right now, I could give you a 6-day course on leadership. We teach leadership in our consulting programs. There's a lot to leadership, but right now, there's very little that you need to know to be a great leader. In fact, it kind of comes down to something called 7 C's. And the first C is the word compassion. If there's ever been a time in my life to have compassion, this is the time. And I've said for many years that the number one characteristic of a great leader is compassion. And if you have compassion for your team and your patients, you will display great leadership. With your teams, you should be communicating with them daily. They should hear from you every single day, a short email, a text, a short video. And by the way, the great thing about videos is now I'm looking at a bunch of you. I'm looking at your offices. I'm looking at your homes. I see people, not in this webinar, but I've seen dogs walk by. The other day, I had to stop a webinar for 60 seconds. I was at home with my dog, and I had to stop the webinar and go stop the dog from barking because he wanted to go out. You know, we're used to informal now. This is normal now. So, you know, sending a very, you know, rough, unedited video that you make with your iPhone is perfectly acceptable in today's era. People will always be happy in the future to watch reporters from home. We're used to it now. It's going to be a new world. Remember those words. It will not be business as usual. It may never be again. Communicate with your staff daily. Once a week, call each staff member. If you have multi-doctors in your practice, you can split it up. Pick up a phone and call them. And the phrase I use is your staff are people too. They are anxious. They are nervous. They are bored. They're home with kids. They are worried about their families. Some of them, you know, compassion. Some of them might have health issues in the family, God forbid worse. And hearing from you goes a long way to just being a friend, to saying, I care. How are you? Being compassionate and checking in with them. And by the way, there's another leadership quality that I think has a lot of value right now, and that's called vulnerability. Tell them how you're feeling. Don't give them false optimism. Tell them what you know. Be honest. Tell them what you don't know. But just by reaching out, you are becoming a great leader. So that's what we want to do with our team at this point. Number 2 is going to be you need to communicate with your patients at least once a week. You should be sending something out to your patients weekly. It could be an update on the practice. It could be a link to something interesting. I talked to a client. We're staying very close to our clients. I talked to a client yesterday who sent out links to free movies to the patients and got a lot of thank yous. By the way, your elderly patients love you for this, because my other recommendation, call 3 to 5 patients every day. I'm on another webinar every day on a panel, and one of my co-panelists is Dr. David Hochberg, who's the past president of the American Academy of Implant Dentistry. Fantastic guy. And he heard me in the very first webinar talk about calling 3 to 5 patients a day. So he started doing it, and he has mentioned at least 7 or 8 times how fantastic it is when he calls patients and the reactions he's getting. Just reach out and call your patients and stay in touch with your patients. Really, really important. So they need to hear from you. You don't want to wait just till you're ready to reschedule them to be in touch with your patients. Now, let's talk about rescheduling. Your first homework assignment is you create your brand new schedule right now. You should know what your schedule is going to look like when you reopen. And if you'll bear with me for a few minutes, I will give you some very clear recommendations of how your schedule needs to change. But what you want to do is reschedule. Now, listen carefully, reschedule every patient who's overdue. But there are two different ways to do that. The first way is not my favorite. It's okay, is as you have to cancel a patient, you reschedule them as you go along. That's not my favorite because if, depending on how long we're out of the office, you may have to reschedule them again and even again. Next year, I'm contributing 2 new words to the Webster Dictionary: rescheduling and rescheduling, meaning that you rescheduled the patient, then you had to call them and do it again, and then you might have to even do it 3 times. I'm more of a fan of maintaining exquisite lists every single day you update it of every patient who's overdue. A lot of my language is changing. All this in the last 6 weeks. The word reactivation used to mean patients who hadn't been in 18 months. Now, to me, it means any patient missing an appointment. One of the fastest ways to recover is getting your patients rescheduled. But I think the best way to do that is to wait till we're just a couple weeks out from opening, when we get that sense, and then start aggressively calling your patients. Now, notice the word I used, calling your patients. I didn't say that because I've been around for a while. I said it because I mean it. Do not text them to reschedule them. You need to call them. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, there are people who are going to be afraid to come back. Some of your patients are never coming back. We are estimating that many practices will lose 15% of their patient base just from COVID-19. We want to lower those numbers for you and for our clients. So here's how we're going to do it. Homework assignment number 1 was getting your new schedule put together now. We'll modify it when we know more. Homework assignment number 2 is writing the scripts that you're going to need when you reopen right now. I'll talk later about your team and following scripts and the past, but I'm going to make this statement right now to you. By the way, I'm drinking my Diet Coke, not because they give me money, but you're my second webinar today. I did 4 yesterday, so I'm keeping my voice going, which is fine. So you'll see me drink that periodically. It's not product placement, although maybe I should call Coke and see if I could get some small royalty for holding it up all the time. Okay, so the important thing here is your team has to now follow the new rules. And I don't mean in a mean way. If your team, I'll come back to this, does not follow the systems and the scripting, your recovery will be longer and harder. And I'm going to say that a lot. So when we reschedule patients, you need scripts and you need to write them now. Now the scripting, we've been doing scripts for 36 years, but even now I'm changing some of our scripting. Everything from 6 weeks ago is changing as we advise our clients. You need compassionate scripting. There's that word again. And what is compassionate scripting? Well, let me tell you what it's not. It is not sending out an email that says your April 18th appointment has been canceled. We will be in touch. I mean, frankly, that's horrible. That's really just horrible. These are people, these are your patients. They're your customers. Another one of my 7 C's is customers. The customers are what's going to bring you back, your patients. Your script should be compassion. You start with a statement about where we are today. Mrs. Smith, we know that we are in an unprecedented time. We hope that you and your family are safe and healthy. Unfortunately, you mollify the statement. Unfortunately, and don't say cancel, we need to reschedule your appointment. We will be in touch with you shortly. And then tell them what you're going to do for them. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact Mary at our office. And if you ever have a dental emergency, please call me personally. Here is my cell phone. That is the type of scripting that we want. Well, that's an email. In your phone calls, when you go to reschedule patients, there are 2 critical elements now. Number 1, tell them how you're going to keep them safe. They're going to want to know. And hopefully, a national organization like the ADA will say, okay, it's safe for patients to come back with the right infection control. And I would quote the ADA or some national organization. It makes you look more credible. The second, that's the patient who has fear. The second patient, and there are going to be a lot of them, has financial concerns. Either they have no money or they're afraid they're going to get fired and don't have money. I saw a headline today. It popped up. I'm going to go look for it later. It said, the second round of layoffs from COVID-19 is just starting. More people are losing their jobs. Okay, again, go back to 08 and 09. We know that's going to happen. Those essential employees, when the company is bleeding money, become less essential. And I'm very sorry to say things like that. So what we want to do is realize patients are going to be very concerned about money. Even people with money will be concerned about money. So we want to reassure them in our phone call scripting that we have expanded financial options, which I will cover in a little while. So reappoint your patients, absolutely critical. How do you reappoint them? You call them so you can talk to them. You need to talk to people. I heard a great quote on a business webinar I attended. You can't think your way out of this crisis. You need to talk your way out of it. You need to talk to your staff. You need to talk to your patients, and you need to talk to advisors. If you don't have the right CPAs, attorneys, and consultants who understand a business turnaround is a scientific method. It's taught in business schools. There are books on the subject. There are articles. You need to be talking to people who can advise you as to what you need to be doing now and in stage 2 and 3. So let me give you a formula for rescheduling patients. You call them once a week for 3 weeks. If you don't reach them, then you go to texting. You should write your texts now. Get this stuff done now so you're ready. You send 3 texts for 3 weeks. If you don't get them scheduled then, you go to email. Write your emails now. And you send 3 emails over 3 weeks. If after the 9 weeks, certain people haven't scheduled, they go into a 90-day follow-up process. There are people who will come back at 90 days or 180 days. But if you stop communicating with them, if you stop touching them, and by the way, communication is another of the 7 C's, then if you don't communicate with them, then they're going to gradually go away and you will lose them. Our goal is to retain every patient we possibly can, and I'm going to give you techniques to do that. The last piece of stage 1, the COVID-19 crisis, there are a lot of things you can be doing, and I'll get to others as we go, is reducing expenses. Now, let me give you a warning. I have talked to a lot of dentists, and there are a lot of people, dentists, who are panicked, and I don't blame them one bit. We're sitting at home. We've built fantastic practices. You've worked hard. You've taken care of people, and you're wondering, what's it going to be like when I get back? Well, let me tell you, most of you will be okay. If you do it right, most of you will be better than okay. It'll take a little while. We're in a crisis. It's a pandemic. In my entire life, I've never seen anything close to this in my entire lifetime. And I hope I never see anything like this again for all of us. But you will bounce back if you follow the guidelines. Here's a guideline. Don't cut your expenses too far. There's a tendency when you cut everything to fire everybody, cut everything, get rid of everything. A lot of panic takes place. And because of the way COVID-19 hit, first we had rumors, then we had recommendations, then we had laws about closing. Everything happened so chaotic and so fast, it didn't give us time to think through this process. But as I said, you can't think your way out of it anyway. You've got to talk your way out of it. And that's, be careful not to cut your expenses to the bone, not to throw out everything in the lifeboat. In a business turnaround, you need resources in order to successfully turn around. The 4 components of a successful business turnaround are: number 1, revenue. We have to get your revenue up as quickly as possible. Number 2, cash. I'll be telling you that I want you to build up 4 months of cash to cover expenses. Not overnight. Somebody wrote to me and said, how am I supposed to get 4 months of cash when I'm not working? I didn't do a good job of explaining it. I didn't mean next week. I meant over the next 12 months. Number 3, so we got revenue, cash. Number 3 are advisors. Get the right advisors. If you have the right advisors, they're going to get you through this. There are people, I've been talking to dentists all week long. I've talked to hundreds of dentists personally since this started. And the people with the right advisors are asking the right questions. And if you ask the right questions, you get great answers. Your success in life is directly proportionate to the questions that you ask. So it's revenue, it's cash, it's advisors. And then the fourth key of the four is expenses. But make sure you don't cut expenses all the way. There's a tendency to do that. Don't do that, because you won't have the resources to bounce back. And we'll get into break-even points in a few minutes. Okay, that's stage one. Now I'm going to move on to stage two. I hope this is helping you. I hope I'm explaining it well. I'm getting better and better at explaining it as I do webinars. So I hope I'm communicating it with a good flow. The second stage is entering recovery. Let me remind you. There are a lot of things you can do, but there are three things you need to do in stage two. The first one is increase your production. Now, let me get a little more complicated. Another homework assignment. So the first one was getting your schedule in order. That was your first homework assignment. The second one, I just blanked on, but I told it to you. And the third one is going to be understanding exactly how much revenue you need. So one of the exercises you should do every single day is measure how much revenue you've lost. Maybe have a drink first and then measure how much revenue you've lost. Every day you're not working, you're losing revenue. Some of you have emergency revenue, some of you do not. And with that, basically, you want to know how much you've lost, because then for our clients, we're going to calculate how much revenue do you have to make up on your average per month once you reopen. You're not going to make up 100%. That's not realistic. But if we can get you back to 80 over 12 months, that is realistic. Now, the longer it takes to reopen, the less realistic that becomes. Remember, I said I'll shift the models as we learn more. The way you get production up, oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying production now. Let me explain. Production leads to revenue, and revenue leads to cash. Don't forget that formula. Production creates revenue, revenue creates cash. That's a phenomenal formula. How do we get production up? Okay, here are the answers. When you reopen, when you rebuild your schedule, you need expanded hours. Now, let me be clear. I sound very dogmatic because I really believe in what I'm telling you, but these aren't even recommendations. I use the word recommendation a lot. These are ideas. We're in unprecedented times, uncharted waters, and with that, these are recommendations, or ideas rather. So you can pick the ones you like best. I like them all, but who knows? So the way you get production up and revenue and cash is get production up as fast as you can. Let me give you 5 recommendations. Number 1, expand your hours. You need evening and weekend hours for 2 reasons. First, if you don't have evenings and weekends, you're going to lose more patients. There are people going back to work that have no more PTO, no more vacation time available, and they're not coming in, and they're afraid to leave work. They are not coming in unless you have non-traditional hours that they can access. Even more important than that is if you work more hours, you get more revenue faster. And revenue is number 1 in the 4 factors in a turnaround. If you hired me to go into a business and turn it around, I'm going to figure out how to get revenue up as fast as I can. I've seen 100 case studies on turnarounds, and revenue is key. Okay, the second way you do it, so 1, work extra hours. 2, work evenings and weekends. 3, get your hygiene program into full gear. You're going to have a lot of pent-up demand when you get back. So for the general dentists on this call, there are several things you can do. If you've got an extra room, hire a temporary hygiene assistant. Let your hygienist work 2 rooms. The average time for scaling and root planing, we've had over 30,000 clients since 1985, and we've done probably 20,000 procedural time studies before we build schedules for offices. And I can tell you with great confidence, the average scaling and root planing time by a hygienist is 22 minutes. So the hygienist moves back and forth between rooms, the assistant does everything else, and you get an immediate 33.3% increase in production if you have the patient flow. That's a real bump in revenue. Number two, you can hire extra hygienists. Unfortunately, we know hygienists are going to be available, and they can come in and work rooms and see more patients. And then you can have half or full hygiene only days where you have you bring in temporary hygienists, you have 4, 5, 6 rooms going. One of my clients said, and I made the statement, and doctors do nothing but check hygiene. And one of my friends, he said, Roger, I'm going to have hygiene only days, but I'm going to be the 6th hygienist, and I'm going to see hygiene patients, and I'm going to check all the other hygiene patients as well. Get a great attitude about going back into practice. You're going to be okay. You have to get there, but you're going to be okay, most of you. The other thing is, if you have vacations planned this summer, I suggest you cancel them, especially if they're cruises. That's a joke. Hard to make jokes in webinars, but once in a while. And if you have a vacation, cancel it. Take a couple 3-day weekends. Number one, you need to work and get revenue. And number two, if you're asking your team to come back and really get going for the recovery, and then you disappear for 10 days, that is not the leadership that I think you should be representing. My thought, take it for what it's worth. Number two, in stage 2, entering recovery, is retaining your patients. The fastest way to retain patients is schedule them, get them in, and the new mantra is, of the many new mantras, no patient leaves without their next appointment. Keep them scheduled. If you don't keep them scheduled, some of them will gradually gravitate away from your practice for the following reasons. Number one, you're going to see tons of dentists advertising massive discounts to get patients. Some patients will go there. Number two, patients, if you don't take their insurance, again, we know all of this from the 2008-2009 recession evidence. Some patients will leave you. They love you, but they'll leave you to where their insurance is taken. If you don't keep patients scheduled, some will leave just to not spend the money right now coming into the dental practice, and they might never get back. The third recommendation or idea under stage 2 is new patients. Now, you've got to get revenue up as fast as possible. New patients have much higher revenue than current patients by 200 to 300%. The new patient is the most financially valuable patient to a dental practice. Not human value, just financial value. I believe all people have human value. I try to respect every person on the planet. That's not what I'm talking about, but you need to get your most productive patients in first, and that includes new patients. That includes your biggest treatment plans. If somebody accepts treatment, get them in as soon as possible, because that gets revenue up. A third are your emergency patients. Emergencies typically accept treatment. Get them in and do same-day treatment. Don't have an emergency and send them home and then bring them back 3 weeks later or something. See them that day. You're going to have to work harder right now. That's one of the factors in a turnaround. You put in more hours. You work harder. But if you want to have a great practice and save your practice, this is what we have to do. This is what our teams have to do. And you, as the compassionate leaders, have to help them understand that. Block time in your schedule that you're going to work on. Block time for the new patients and even possibly for emergencies. Okay, this takes us to stage 3. That's called recovery. And in the recovery stage, there are 3 things you must do. Now, the first one you've heard before, but you need to look at it in a whole new dimension. And here's an analogy. If you don't eat well and you don't exercise, you're pretty normal, and then you have a heart attack. All of a sudden, you look at nutrition and exercise in a whole different way, completely different way. I have a friend who, very successful executive, definitely not an alcoholic, but he does drink a lot. He was about 35 pounds overweight and found out last year that he's been diagnosed with diabetes. Well, now he's down to 1 drink a day. He's eating well. He's lost 30 pounds. So he's looking at his situation in a whole new dimension. And that's my analogy for you. When you get back, it will not be business as usual. So the first thing you need to do is put in place outstanding systems. There are a couple of you on this webinar that have been our clients. I don't know everybody here, but a few people I recognize. And you have the systems in place. You didn't do it for COVID-19, but because we didn't know that was coming. But this is a time where your systems must be streamlined. The word is efficiency. You want the most efficient systems you can get. I have spent 36 years trying to create efficient systems, stripping out anything wasteful, unnecessary. But the truth is, with all of our 36 years and 30,000 clients plus, there were practices that I met that did not have great systems. And you think I'm going to tell you they were really bad practices. They were great. They made tons of money. They made it in chaos, but that's how they did it. You did not have to have great systems. If they had great systems, they could have done even better, but they did great. Well, in 2008 and 9, there were a lot fewer of practices without good systems that did well. And I am convinced that as we go to post-COVID-19, if you don't get excellent systems, your turnaround will hit a plateau and you won't get past it. So you want to get your systems in place, and your team must follow them. And they must follow them for the sake of the practice, because the systems work. You can't miss rescheduling patients. You can't miss filing insurance. You can't miss collections. We need all cylinders firing to get you back to where you want to be and should be. So, and scripting is huge. I've had thousands of dentists say, yeah, Roger, we had scripts, but my team didn't want to follow them. Well, that's not a choice anymore. When you create compassionate scripting, it is essential that they be followed. And we need to measure the result of every system to make sure we're doing what we need to be doing. Number 2 recommendation, cross-train some of your staff. Now, I've never been a big fan of cross-training until now. And the reason I was not a big fan is it wasn't bad. I just like the idea of a person being super specialized and excelling in their job. And now we need cross-training. Why? Number 1, you may not be able to retain all of your team members. I'm sorry to tell you that. I hate saying that. I've got compassion for everybody, but we know from 08 and 9, for example, dental hygiene went from a shortage of hygienists. Within 1 year, there were at least 20% of hygienists were out of a job. Hygiene classes were graduating. Nobody could find a job. Hygiene went light. So we have evidence that we may be lightening up a little bit. And you won't know this, by the way, till the second phase, months 3 through 5, when the pent-up demand begins to go away. So don't be fooled. And every week, by the way, you need to be, every single week, not month, you need to be looking at key performance indicators. Expenses against revenue. Are you negative or positive? We'll be doing that with our clients. So cross-training allows you to do several things. Number 1, somebody's got to work those evenings and weekends, and some of your staff may not be able to or may not want to. So cross-training creates flexibility. And secondly, if you need to slim down labor-wise, and you have a person who's the only one that can do a job, well, that person cannot be slimmed down. So your choices get limited otherwise. The third piece is accumulating cash. How do you accumulate cash? Production. Our brand statement is increasing practice production. So I've been studying production since 1985. When production goes up, overhead percentage goes down, revenue goes up. You don't collect everything. In fact, I'm going to talk to you about expanded financial options. Your collections are going to be lower than in the past, and that's good. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Like, how could that be good, Roger? Bear with me. I'll share it with you. And so when production goes up, revenue goes up. When revenue goes up, cash goes up. Here's my warning. As a dentist, and I'm one of you, we think that revenue, cash, and income are all the same thing. If there's extra money in the checkbook, we can take it as income. But in the business world, revenue, cash, and income are 3 very different things. Start building up your cash. Do it slowly, but build up your cash. Even if you take a little lower income, and I know you've been out of work, I get that, but that cash is still yours. If you never have to use it, it doesn't go anywhere. It's still yours to take. But in the event that you need it, like COVID-19 comes back again, that's a possibility, and you might be out for another month or 2 at some point, then you've got the cash to protect yourself. Remember, the government came in with these PPP loans, and for those of you who get them, and did you a gigantic favor. Otherwise, if you terminated your staff and they weren't getting the $600 federal excess until July, you'd have some real challenges to take on and think about. Okay, now let me end this part by mentioning one more thing you want to do when you get back. One more thing you want to put into your scripts. And I'm going to tell you it's essential, but I think everything I'm saying is essential, but these are ideas. If I didn't think it was important, I wouldn't spend time on it with you and waste your time. So expanded financial options. There are 3 things you need to give serious thought to. Number 1, patient financing. Now don't ignore me by saying, well, Roger, we have care credit. Everybody has care credit. 80% of dentists have care credit. It's a great company. But here's the new patient financing message. You need to increase your revenue from patient financing by 200% to 300%. Use it with every patient. In your scripting, you will write and tell every single patient, not just new patients, Mrs. Smith, by the way, for our patients that need it, we have interest-free financing available. Those are some of the most powerful words that you're going to speak, because it says to the patient, if you come in, we're going to make dentistry affordable for you, because we know after 08 and 09, a lot of patients didn't come back in. The second thing I recommend are payment plans. Now, for 36 years, I've been radically opposed to payment plans. Why? They're a great way not to get paid. People end up not finishing their payment plan. The truth is that most people will finish their payment plans. Some will not. And this is where your collections are going to drop. So you might be saying, if you're smart, well, Roger, why would I want to do something that's going to lower my collections? Here's why. The break-even point. Next homework assignment. Calculate the break-even point of your practice. You're going to need to know this every single week when you get back into practice. It's one of the 6 statistics you need to know in a turnaround. Because if you know your break-even point, you now know how much revenue you need to meet your expenses. Well, that doesn't sound exciting, does it? Yeah, it does, because in a turnaround, the first objective is cover expenses. Get to break even, because if you hit break even, you survive. Okay, if you don't hit break even, you don't survive. Now, you can miss a week or 2, but if you don't break even for 6 months, how long are you going to be around? So calculate your break even point with your staff back in place. And every week, we're going to analyze receivables against expenses to determine how you're doing. Okay, so, and I'm going to go about 6 more minutes, and then I'll take questions. Is that okay, Dr. Cruz? Okay, good. Okay, so know your break even. And if a patient pays 60% of their payment plan, you probably are close to covering overhead on that patient. Well, lots of manufacturers and factories understand this. They will bid a job, a multi-million job, at cost just to break even. Now, why would they do that? Because it helps pay their expenses. It keeps their labor force in place. They don't have to fire people and then hire people and train new people. Breaking even is your first objective. Profitability is your second objective, of course. So payment plans, I like. And the third recommendation is discounting. And I'm going to use the real word. Let's call it what it is, discounting. And you have patients who will be very appreciative if you say to them, Mrs. Smith, you need a crown, and we're trying to help people. I'm reducing your fee against our fee by $300. Dr. Cruz and I talked about this. You know, with implants, some people will be very pleased if they can get a small discount. Invisalign, there's room to give a discount. There's not as much room to discount on hygiene, but there's a lot of room, and your profit will be lower. That's okay. Remember the objectives. This is temporary. This is not forever. This is the recovery phase. In a turnaround, let's get to break even, and then let's get to profitability. Let me warn you again, those first few months of pent-up demand, you'll be profitable, and you'll think that everything I said was unimportant and irrelevant, and I missed the mark. And I hope I do. I don't think I will, if I could be wrong on all this, that'd be great. But I don't think I will. We're building the models. We're working on this every single day and night. And don't let those first few months lull you into a belief that you don't have to worry about these expanded financial options because everything's normal. It will not be business as usual. Let me end with a few more recommendations, if I may. And the first one, next homework assignment. Please do your homework. Our consultants are working directly with our clients on this. That's how important it is. The next item is called the COVID-19 one-page strategic recovery plan. You don't even need to write it down, and I'll tell you why in a second. The COVID-19 one-page strategic recovery plan. It is one. In fact, it may be, in my opinion, the most critical thing you do to prepare for recovery. So the reason you don't have to write it down, just go to our website, levingroup.com, LEVINGROUP.com. When you hit the home page, there's a COVID-19 resource center. By the way, everybody, everything there is free. We're all about helping people. Right now, I do believe we're all in this together, and if there's ever a time in history to help each other, this is it. So go into the COVID-19 Resource Center, and you'll find a lot of resources, but you'll find the one-page strategic recovery plan explanation. It's simple. Read it. It's a one-page plan. Now, let me give you a warning. I've given you a lot of warnings today. A one-page plan. How hard can that be, Dr. Cruz, right? It's one page. It's got to be simple. I mean, seriously, how much can you put on one page? Let me tell you all something. It's really hard, okay? You're going to have to think. Thinking is hard. I went through 10 revisions of the Levin Group, of our one-page plan, before I showed it to our executives to get their feedback and their input on the next revisions. It is not easy. My suggestion, leave 24 hours between each revision. Don't try to do it all at once. You'll get great ideas going day to day moving forward. So the one-page plan works like this. You take a piece of paper, you divide it into 4 quadrants. As you'll see on the website, the 4 quadrants are practice, staff, patients, financial. It's all there for you on the website if you don't want to write this down. And in each quadrant, you will list 3 to 4, no more than 4, high value strategies to help you with recovery. Keep your mentality. It's only about recovery. Forget everything else you know. Everything else, I'm saying things today I've never said before, that I was opposed to before, but they're the best ideas to help you right now. So think recovery. Why do you only get 3 or 4? It's called the 80-20 principle. There's a universal law that was created by Vilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist, called the 80-20 principle. You can find it. There are a million articles on it on the internet and on YouTube. And what he found, and I'm not going to give you the detail or the case study, but basically 80% of your results in most situations come from 20% of your effort. I firmly believe that 80% of your recovery will come from 20% of your strategies, what I call high value strategies. So you don't get more than 4. The most you can have is 16 strategies, 4 quadrants, 4 each. 3 is okay. And that's all you get. And that's all you need. And then you're going to create this one-page plan. Now, every strategy needs a measurement or a deadline. And if you do that, and then under each box, you put a goal. For Levin Group, our categories are different, but one is financial. I'll give you an example. So the goal that I put down at the bottom of that box was how many months of cash we want to have on hand going forward. So your strategies are critically important. It could be how many active patients you have, how many patients you're going to reactivate. Under financial, what will your revenue be within 12 months? What will your profit margin be? How much cash will you have available and on hand, staying in a cash reserve account just in case you need it? Under patients, how will you reactivate them? What financial options will you give them? Under staff, two quick things, and I'll give you a couple more recommendations and stop. Number one, when they come back, they need a new purpose. You know, this is gonna sound like fluffy stuff. It's not. Your staff is coming back concerned for their lives, for their financial lives. Some of them make less money than what unemployment is currently paying them. Now that's still going to go in July. The federal $600 goes away, but right now some of your staff are making more money than they made while they were employed. Now they're not going to be able to continue the unemployment benefits. They're going to move back into the office, and they're worried for their financial. Their spouses may have lost jobs. Who knows? So what are you going to do to give them a purpose as a compassionate leader when they come back? What is the purpose? And the purpose has to be, it's not around a mission. All the things I love, that core values, mission statements, vision, forget it. Over the next 12 months, it's all around recovery. And in fact, I know I'm going on too long. I hope it's not too bad, but a couple last recommendations. Give your staff a bonus. Now, you're sitting back and saying, okay, Roger, so far you've been pretty good, but that is ridiculous. I'm out of work. I'm not making any money. How the heck am I going to give my staff a bonus? Well, this is a different kind of bonus. I wrote a book called The Bonus System That Works. And you might think I'm about to sell you my book. Don't buy my book. Wait a year and buy my book. My book is irrelevant right now. In fact, I've written 68 books. I was working on 3 books. I work on 3 books at a time because they integrate together. And I was working on 3 books, and then COVID-19 hit. I put the books away because my ideas in the books not only were not the right ideas for right now, my new ideas contradict what's in the books. So I put those books away. I'll get back to them in 9 or 12 months. So why would I recommend a bonus? This is a different kind of bonus. This is a recovery bonus. And let me make sure I'm clear. You pick a number. And the bonus, and you tell your team, this is a time you've got to start being honest with your team. This passive aggressive behavior that lots of dentists have is really endearing and nice, but not now. People want to hear the truth. They may not like it, but they want to hear the truth. So you tell them this bonus is for extraordinary performance. Use that word. You say to them, look at my hand. If we get up here, I can do this for you. If we don't get to here, if we're down here, I cannot do this for you. It's an all or none. It's not a percentage. It's not I'll give it to you anyway. It's not because you're having a rough time in life. It's all about our recovery. And that bonus will rally them. Now, I would make that bonus at least 6 months out, maybe 9 or 12 months. Terrible ideas that I've never liked before, but right now I like a lot. And then every single day in your 10-minute meeting, and you must have a morning recovery meeting. That's the new name, every day. Your morning recovery meeting every day, and you remind them where they stand toward that bonus. Rally them around it, because we're going to ask them to work harder than ever. Now, the good news, people know that jobs are not available all over the place. People are going to come back with a brand new work ethic. They want to work. I saw an email from a hygienist to our client that said, just want you to know when we get back, I will work as many hours as you want. What she didn't say is, and by the way, legally, you'll have to pay me overtime, and that's good for me, but that's okay. I like the attitude anyway. One last thought, when you go to the levingroup.com website, you'll see an opportunity to sign up for our tip of the day. I hope a lot of you are getting them, Dr. Cruz. I know you get them, and you should communicate with your colleagues in this group. Every day you get a tip of the day. It's 20 seconds long. People seem to really like them. We have over 30,000 people a day getting them, and I'm writing them, and they're on COVID-19 right now. So every day you'll get a COVID-19 tip. Some will give you ideas, some will motivate you, some are for your team. Have your team sign up. Tell them to sign up for it. Everything's free. There's no sales here right now. That's so inappropriate. So everything's free. I'm trying to help you. And lastly, if you go to YouTube, we have a YouTube channel, and every day or two, I'm posting new 2- and 3-minute videos. And all my new videos, it's me. You'll see my face. All my new videos are on COVID-19. So you can get a lot of ideas there as well. So I wanted to give you some resources. I want to give you ideas. Dr. Cruz, I'll stop now. I don't know if I'm in trouble or not, but I can't help myself. I want to
You're
share.
free. No, fantastic. Please, if there's more that you need to give us, I mean, everyone is enjoying the comments that I'm getting as we speak. It's fabulous. I really, from all of us, we really appreciate dearly, from.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Dr. Cruz, since you're a client of ours, I want to thank my team at Levin Group. I'm doing a huge amount of work. I'm the face on all these webinars. Yeah, I like working hard. So nobody likes when you tell them how hard you work. Nobody actually cares. I like working hard. So I'm pleased to be able to do this. But our team at Levin Group, Steve Pospistle's on this webinar, Angela Pickett, Christine Claff, our consultants, they have been phenomenal contributors. They're helping me to be better, and they're helping others to be better. So I just want to thank them as well. So do we have questions?
They they should be able to write on the right-hand side of the Zoom group, Dr. Levin. Is there any questions there that anyone have?
I can't see them, so you'd have to read it to me.
Okay.
Let me while you're thinking of your questions, I'll give you another recommendation, another homework assignment. You got a lot. There's plenty to do, folks. Dentists say, "Oh, I have nothing to do." There's plenty to do. Ask your team to each come up with 5 ways they're going to help you in the recovery. Now, one of the things you might want to do is go back to the levingroup.com homepage. There's an interview that I did with Dentistry IQ. It's about an hour. Your team may or may not want to watch it. I think there's a lot of good information, not as much as today because I've been evolving my information every day or two, but it gives them the foundation if they want to watch it. You could watch it as a group. You could do a call where you're all watching it together and on a Zoom call. But anyway, bottom line is ask each person to start thinking of 5 ways they're going to contribute to your recovery. Get them in the game, make them your partners, engage them. So I share that with you as an idea. If there are questions, I am delighted to answer them.
We are on we do phone calls and post them.
Oh, I'll give you another one. You want another one?
Yep.
Okay. Another thing I'm talking about, it's not on the website yet. I don't think. I'd have to ask Steve. I call it the top 25. Another homework assignment. And by the way, this is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Make a list of the 25 people that are going to help you get through your recovery. One category is your staff. Now, if you've got 20 staff, then you might have to make it 35 people. But the top 25 people who are going to get you through your recovery are your staff, then your contacts, your advisors, your CPA, your attorney, your consultant, your executive coach. As I said, you can't think your way out of this problem. You have to talk your way out of it. You need people to talk to, your banker when it comes to loans. And then you have other people, your landlord, your supply company, your lab. And what you want to do is come up with the 25 people you're going to work with to get through this crisis and through recovery, and contact them now. Don't wait till you need them. Be in touch with them now. I know our consultants are in touch constantly with our clients, and you should be talking to your landlord now, even if you're not asking for anything. You should be talking to your banker, your financial advisor, your consultants, whoever's in your life, your suppliers. And by the way, many companies already have programs to help you. We have clients who are getting 3 and 4 months where they don't have to pay their distributors because they already know what's going on. They want you to make it through this. They don't want you bankrupt and not paying bills, and they want to help. I think most companies do have a desire to help right now. So even when you give discounts when you get back, that's part of your desire to help people, in addition to having the idea going forward. So there's another critical exercise, and we will be getting that up onto our website at some point in the near future, because I think it's such a terrific idea. Any specific questions I can answer, because I can't see the questions?
Yes, I'll read you one, but I guess that people are confused. They can probably click chat on the bottom of the screen, you click chat, then you go to Zoom group, and then you can put your question. There's just a question here from, there's one question here from Dr. Gordon from Brownsville, and she says, we are antique. We do phone calls, post messages. How often you recommend communicating via post to our patients?
I recommend communicating with patients weekly in different fun ways. Again, a short email, a short video, a text message if you have automated texting, and something interesting. It could be an interesting article you saw. It could be something upbeat about how things are getting better when they get better. Stay out of politics. The three things you should never discuss are sex, religion, and politics. They can only get you into trouble. But wishing people well, telling them you're thinking of them, sending them, I told you about the client who sent out links to free movies, all this kind of stuff. I think it was legally free movies. All these kind of things are fantastic. By the way, another tip, make sure your phone is being answered live every single day by a live person. We have a dentist, a client of ours who's very, very, very accomplished, very prominent, very well known. He himself takes 3-hour shifts every day to answer the phone from patients. And he said, when patients get him, they say, oh, wow, I didn't know I'd get you. They're so excited to get him. He's enjoying it, but he's showing his team that he's right in there. The phrase I'm using is that when we get back, it's all hands on deck. Everybody pitches in doing whatever it is that you're going to need to do. So you want to take a look at that. So sending out, I wouldn't send mail. It's too hard, too expensive, too time consuming. I would do everything electronically and digitally.
Dr. Levin, there's two more questions that I'm seeing so far. One from Dr. Lou. It says, I might not be able to sit patients together anymore. Could we increase our fees, or we have to work with less staff?
Well, Dr. Lou, that's a great question, and I love great questions. My first part of the answer is, I don't know what's going to happen. As I said, until we know what the regulation is, I'm not going to build the models based on that. It's coming, and we'll modify quickly, but I've got to know what they are. Now, let's say you can't see as many patients. Are you going to raise fees? Well, there are a lot of things I haven't talked about today because we can't cover it all in one webinar. But let me tell you what happened after 2008 and 2009. We have the evidence. Dental insurance companies started lowering reimbursements. But what else happened after 2008 and 2009? More dentists than ever before signed up for dental insurance plans. So today, to give you some data, this is data from pre-COVID-19, 6 weeks ago. It's back. We have a huge data center in our company. We build our work around data. So with that, the data shows that up till 6 weeks ago, 89% of dental practices participated in one or more plans. Only 11% of dental practices were fee for service. I am now predicting, again, no data, take it for what it's worth, that 6 months from now, we'll only have 5 to 6% of dental practices that are strictly fee for service, and they will mostly be in urban areas. And it may not even be that high. So can you raise your fees? That's going to be hard. I wouldn't raise my fees right after the COVID-19 crisis ends. I think you're going to see everybody in the world lowering fees, and marketing is going to be about discounting going forward. If I'm getting a ton of marketing to me offering to help me, quote unquote, they're going to help me by giving me 3 free months on software or this or that. Well, it's not 3 free months. They're just trying to suck you in for long term. So no, I wouldn't lower your fees. If anything, I might discount them a little bit. But an excellent point, bringing your expenses down will be important. And I call that controlling expenses. Don't cut them to the bone, but control them. But in terms of whether you'll have to see less patients, we just don't know yet. We don't know the answer at this point. And until we do, I'm going to hold my thinking because it just doesn't make sense to me to try to plan for the unknown. We'll get there in the next few weeks, I have no doubt.
Okay. Another one from Dr. Carrillo. I'm thinking discounts are only applicable to non-insurance. Is that right? Non-insurance patients?
Correct. Unfortunately, the law says that if you give a discount to a patient, you've got to give it to an insurance company. So I've thought through that actually, and I have a proposed answer. Let's say your crown fee is $1,200, but you participate with an insurance plan. Well, you might only get $800 or $900 from that plan. So if you took your crown fee for a patient and you lowered it by $200 and said, hey, I want to give you some help here, we're going to bring this down by $200, you're going to get a $200 discount, you're still well above the insurance fee. So when you submit the $1,000 fee rather than the $1,200 fee, you're still working with a maximum allowable fee of $800 to $900. The thing you want to worry about is, will your profile end up being lowered because you lowered your fee? And in most cases, the answer is no, it will not be lowered. And by the way, if you find that lowering your fee 20% is lower than the insurance company maximum allowable fee, your fees were too low to begin with. And yes, you're the person who needs to raise them and then discount them. So, you know, it's an old game in the business world. I'll raise my fee by 20% and give you a 10% discount. Car dealers do this all the time. I don't want to play games. I don't want to be tricky. You just need to raise your fees if you're not even 20% above an insurance company profile level. So that one I actually think I have an answer to.
Okay, can we accept only insurance payment and not charge patient's responsibility? So, Dr. Lopez?
If the question is, can you accept payment from the insurance company and not collect the co-payment from the patient, that is illegal in every insurance contract that I've ever seen. I don't know of any insurance plans where the patient is not legally required to pay the co-payment. The reason, by the way, is that's the original definition of managed care dentistry. The reason managed care didn't hit dentistry the same way it hit medicine, we were already managed. First of all, most procedures, the patient has to pay part of the fee. So there's a managed control factor right there. And secondly, we have we have maximums every year that have barely gone up in the last 30 years. So we don't have the same managed care problem that medicine had.
I don't think we have any more questions so far. I think we're finished with the questions so far.
Good. Well, we've been 90 minutes. We've been 90 minutes. That's good webinar time. Let me just mention, I wish everybody a strong recovery. I wish everybody health and safety. Keep going to our COVID-19 Resource Center and YouTube channel. We'll keep adding information. Consulting right now, you don't have your staffs, but make sure you're looking at recovery strategies. We're focusing on recovery strategies for our GPs and our specialists. And there are people saying, hey, I want to get my systems ready now for when I reopen. It's a great idea. Do whatever you can do now to get ready so that you hit the ground running when you're allowed to reopen, because that's going to be a critical factor in your future.
Well, Dr. Levin, thank you so much from the society here in South Texas and the entire state. The local state, we really appreciate all your info. It's so valuable, especially now that these unprecedented times that we all are passing. Especially I feel more for those that are young in the practice, for the new generation of the millennials that are coming out. They have a lot of things ahead of them, but I think that we should be united, as this beautiful nation is, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to work together to make a difference. Thank you again, and God bless you, Dr. Levin.
Thank you, everybody. Good luck to everyone. I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future, hopefully live. Take care.